Chris, what is our second main topic today?
I got really distracted. Someone in the chat asked, why does Bob Iger look so hot?
It's a handsome man, Papa Iger.
Iger in the masterclass. Okay. Alan Renshaw writes in, I just saw an article on the Hollywood Reporter that the Academy's officers of the Board of Governors called for an emergency meeting on Will Smith. It seems like a suspension of his membership is likely, but what do you think could come of this meeting?
All right, thanks a lot for saying that in. And of course, we talked at length yesterday about what went on with Will Smith and things like that. Quick summary, there is no excusing what he did, period, end of sentence. You can't justify what he did. But I don't think seeing somebody in their worst, I don't think we should judge people based on their worst moment. And I don't think we should, I think the punishment should fit the crime. This shouldn't be a life sentence, whatever. And no, I don't believe they should strip his Oscar away from him. His Oscar was given to him for his acting. That hasn't changed. They shouldn't take that away from him. But what will happen? That's become the question. Because he was allowed to stay in the theater after it happened. And I read a really interesting article today on the Hollywood Reporter about why he was allowed to stay. It was because they couldn't figure out what to do fast enough. Because he literally was 10 minutes later accepting the award for Best Actor. As some people in the theater didn't even know if what happened was real or not. Security was confused. The Board of Governors was trying to meet quickly to decide what to do about it. But by that point, it was too late. And so they may have escorted him out of the building. They may not have. Ultimately, we won't know. But they say the reason nothing happens because they literally didn't have enough time to figure out what to do about it. So that was fine.
I buy that.
Yeah, I buy it too. I think that makes sense. So last night, Will Smith issued an apology on his social media, which some people say, social media is not good enough. Listen, Will Smith's got a real big reach with his social media.
62 million people on Instagram.
That is pretty much as big of a megaphone you can have for saying something publicly. And Will Smith got on his social media publicly, made an apology to Chris Rock specifically. He said, I was out of line, I was wrong, blah, blah, it was a good apology, all that kind of stuff. The question is now what happens with Will Smith? And that's what's being discussed. As we talked about yesterday, one of the things the Academy had been discussing is possibly stripping him of his Oscar, which I personally don't think they should do. Possible suspension, possible expulsion from the Academy, other things. Well, it looks like it's going to be, as most things should be, it looks like it's going to be something somewhere in the middle. This comes just from the folks over at Screen Rant who write the following. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the Academy is not expected to take back Smith's Best Actor Oscar, which I think is good, but is considering some type of sanction, including a potential suspension of his Academy membership. Members are split on whether to revoke the Oscar, while others support the suspension only. However, a new statement from the Academy condemns Smith's actions during the broadcast and says that they have begun a formal review of the incident and that they will explore further action and consequences following their bylaws, standards of conduct, and most importantly, California law. All right. So we've discussed ad nauseum about what happened at the Oscars. Now the question becomes what happens next. It sounds like there are a bunch of people in the Academy who do want to take away his Oscar, but they're probably going to be outvoted, which again, I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
It was voted on before the Oscar ceremony happened. They had deemed him the best lead actor of the year. He's got his award. What he did, right or wrong, well, it's wrong. There's no right or wrong. What he did, as wrong as it was, does not negate why he was given his award and for what, and they shouldn't take it away, in my opinion. So it sounds like they're not going to do that. However, rules were broken. Laws were broken, and they've got to figure out, and you can't just let it slide. So they're going to do something about it. Personally, for me, and I mentioned this, Rob, on our mailbag episode that we did yesterday. By the way, if you guys haven't checked out mailbag, go and check out our mailbag video. But to me, what I believe would probably be most appropriate is like a 2 to 4 year suspension. And within the bylaws of the Academy, what they have the power to do, if you are suspended from the Academy, you are also suspended from eligibility, which could mean that for a period of 2 to 4 years, they say, number one, Will Smith, who is a member of the Academy, his membership is suspended, but they also say, it doesn't matter if you turn in the greatest performance of all time next year, you are ineligible for 3 years. Some people will say that's kind of a slap on the wrist. I suggest that that is a significant punishment. I think it's significant. I don't think it's minor. When you're a guy like Will Smith and you're at the point in your career right now where you are focused on legacy now. Will Smith has already had a fully successful Hollywood career. That's done. Now he's focused on legacy. He's got his Academy Award. You know he would love to add another one to that. Once you've had a little taste of that, you want more. Just look at Tom Brady. 1 Super Bowl ring wasn't enough. Hell, 7 isn't enough. But he wants more, right? And I would propose that while some people would be saying it's light and it's just a slap on the wrist, if you put in place like a 3-year suspension where he is also ruled ineligible for any Academy consideration, I propose that is a serious blow. And I propose that is a significant and, let's say, reasonable response to it. Chris Rock himself has declined to press charges, so that's out of the way. I think if the Academy does this, it, number one, makes the Academy look like we take our rules seriously and we take how you act at our events seriously. Number two, I don't think it overdoes it. I reject the call by some people that think Will Smith should just now be canceled forever. I think that's going beyond the scope of what actually happened. And I think it would be a fair discipline. I think it would be fair discipline for what they could do here. Anyway, Rob, you and I discussed this yesterday. Now that it looks like we've moved beyond what happened to now what happens next, what do you think the Academy will end up doing? And what would you suggest doing as a result of what happened?
Well, I think, look, obviously it's clear that something has to be done. And I think looking to California law is a good place to start, and that's what they're doing. I mean, it was, without a doubt, probably one of the most witnessed assaults in television history. So I think looking at what the law says makes it more impartial. It takes the emotion out of it and says, look, this is what you did. It was, obviously it happened. And we have to base our whatever our punitive, whatever the judgment's going to be, whatever kind of judgment it is. And I think that the law is a great place to start, but also, like you said, some kind of a suspension. He egregiously broke the bylaws or whatever, the rules of that organization. Full stop. You know, it's academic. You can't. There's nowhere to go from there, and the organization itself has been compelled to act. They have to act. They have to show that this can never happen again. The real question that I have is, and I think we're going to get that answer pretty quickly, is do you cast Will Smith during this time? Do you put him in another movie? And I wonder, I mean, from the Academy, does that mean that we're not going to see another Will Smith movie for 3 years? Is that right? And if we are, is it right for Will Smith to be cast in an Oscar caliber movie? And does that mean the movie itself is denied from, if he stars in another film, does that movie get removed from consideration from Oscar contention? Because of all the other people working on the film, they're not Will Smith and they shouldn't be penalized, should they?
Well, I don't think, number one, I
don't
think
know.
a suspension from the Academy does not mean a suspension from Hollywood.
No, of course not.
Right.
But that's the thing. Do you cast him?
Yeah, so you can cast him. I think.
But will people?
I think they will. I think they will. I think especially if, it will actually help, I think, if the Academy hands down some kind of discipline. If the Academy takes action and hands down some kind of discipline, I think it furthers the narrative that, okay, he got what he had coming to him, and now we can move on from other things. I would guess, too, that if he does appear, like, say, in a movie next year, and it's an Oscar caliber film, I have a feeling that it would be only he that would become ineligible for winning anything. Like, I don't think they would make the cinematographer is ineligible to win because it's a movie with Will Smith. I don't think the Academy would be looking to punish studios that work with him. I think they'd just be suspending him from their own body. So at least that's how I think they would handle it.
Dude, I want to greenlight a remake of Martin Brest's Midnight Run starring Chris Rock and Will Smith. I greenlight that tomorrow.
All right. Anyway, Chris, we talked a lot about this situation yesterday. Now we've moved on to the next page.
Yeah.
What happens next? What should, what shouldn't? Same question to Rob. What do you think the Academy will do? And if you're on that Academy, what do you suggest they do?
Well, first of all, thank you to everyone who sent me DMs yesterday, thanking us for the discussion and everything. It was really, really sweet of you guys to continue engaging like that. I really, really appreciate all of you. I do think a suspension is probably the way the Academy is going to move here, because removal of an Oscar, I do think, is out of the question. Because like we talked about yesterday, A lot more people are going to have to lose their Oscars then. Harvey Weinstein still has his. Roman Polanski, Mel Gibson. I mean, all these people who've had problematic things or egregious things, crimes that they have gone to prison for or tried to evade, have their Oscars still. So I think that's completely out of the question. I do think suspending him from the Academy is the more likely situation here. What's then interesting about that is if he is in films like Rob brought up, are other unions and other award ceremonies going to also take him out of the running? Is SAG not going to recognize him? Would the Golden Globes not recognize him? Would the BAFTAs not recognize him? So this opens up another conversation with all these other organizations about how they're going to move forward in regards to Will Smith. I do think he still has tremendous amount of castability here. We've seen how the court of public opinion can definitely affect someone being in films, not only their box office return, but just being cast in them in general. But I do think that because Will has finally owned up to what he did and talked about it, still think it should have happened in the speech, but I'm glad that he issued an apology. I'm very, very proud of him for that. I think that's what the bigger person always does, is they take responsibility for their actions, no matter the explanation or the why of why something happens in the first place. I'm so glad he condoned the violence that he, inflicted. But I do think removing the Oscar is just out of bounds, especially with how many other people have been completely problematic and far worse, in my opinion.
And there's something else to keep in mind here too when considering what do you do about Will Smith here. Unlike some other people in the business, we're going to talk about one a little bit later. Will Smith does not have a track record of this.
No.
Right? Will Smith, for decades in his career, has been very look, I've got my opinion about some of his business philosophies about, refusing to be in some movies unless they put his family in the movies too, whatever. It's like, I can like or not like that, but that doesn't speak to his character as a person. Like, everything we have heard from people who have worked with Will Smith over decades is this is a clean guy. He's a good guy. He is a nice guy. He tries to do right by people. He has never caused a problem. Now granted, like the one of the real unfortunate things about the whole Oscar incident was that for his pride, he decided that the whole Academy, my entire industry that's here to celebrate the movies and is supposed to be good for our night, I'm going to soil it because of my pride. My pride's more important. I'm more important than the Oscars. I'm more important than everybody else in this room. I'm more important than the entire industry, and I'm going to do this. But that has not been his track record. So I think you really got to look at this too when thinking what needs to be done about it. You got to look at it as this is a first offense, guys. It's a first offense. He got online. He apologized. Chris Rock's not punitive. Yes, something's got to be done, but I think it's got to be measured. And I think a 3-year suspension, 3-4 years. But you raise a great question, Chris, about, because, if with the unions like SAG and DAG and everything else, a lot of times the unions will work in unison. Like if one union says something is persona non grata, then the other unions will follow suit. That is a great question about if the Oscars do put some kind of sanction on Will Smith right now, will others follow suit? Will the Oscars even ask the others to follow suit? I personally don't think they will. But, Chris Rock is a member of SAG.
Yeah.
So Will Smith actually assaulted another member of SAG. So I don't think they will, but it's a really good question.
I think it's a really good question. And, I didn't even think about it till you brought it up. But I think in a way it has to be, they either have to do, I do think SAG has to acknowledge something. They have to come out with some statement and say, look, we have to acknowledge this. We have 2 of our members, and there was this incident in full view of everybody. What do we have to say? Do we have a policy when one of our members assaults another member?
But then does the fact that it happened on TV, like what happens when 2 SAG members get in a scuffle at McDonald's, but it's not on TV? Do they suspend those members? Like it wasn't a SAG event. It was the Oscars, totally separate from SAG.
But I mean, it's in a way, I'm sure that Chris Rock was probably getting paid. So was he getting paid SAG wages? He could be, he might have actually been on a job, a SAG sanctioned job.
It was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then there's another thing that needs to be addressed as well, because he was in the workplace. He got assaulted at work
by another SAG
by
member.
another SAG member. I mean, if that were to happen on a film set,
Oh.
I mean,
Well,
insurance.
yeah.
I mean, it's bad.
So I don't know. Maybe they imply, or just maybe they just wait to see what the Academy does and say we'll honor whatever the Academy does and say 3 years.
But I
He's
think
suspended
even
there too.
But I would love to see. Are there? I don't know. Now I want to look into SAG bylaws. Like if you're on a job and you're assaulted, there's got to be other protocols that kick in that hasn't even been addressed. I haven't seen
There
anyone.
might be.
I haven't seen anyone bring that up anywhere.
Well,
in the case
I
of
mean,
this.
we'll have to see what happens there. But I think the bottom line is here. It doesn't look like he's going to get his Oscar taken away, and that's a good thing. He shouldn't have his Oscar.
No,
taken
no,
away.
I don't think you should either.
It looks like something will be done, which they must do something. But it looks like I hope it's not too severe because again, first time offender. He's apologized. It wasn't a career-ending thing. It's not like once he hit Chris Rock, he then got him in full mount and started raining down elbows on him or anything.
No,
Like,
no, it's true. But I'm just from a procedural standpoint. Now I'm fascinated by what the actual response would be as far as bylaws or business is concerned, because I just want to know, like, this is an interesting could this be an interesting legal issue or a rules issue in terms of SAG? I want to find out. Maybe not at all. Now you've got me curious. I want to go read
But here's the
SAG
thing.
have.
I'm going to guess if Chris Rock doesn't file a complaint with SAG
Sure.
about it, then
Exactly.
probably nothing will be
'Cause
done.
that's
I
usually
think
where
it would
things
probably
stop.
I think it would have to be predicated on Chris Rock going to the union and doing that.
But
And I think if he doesn't, it ends there. But listen, we got to move
Yeah,
on. We've
true.
run out of time here. The question is for you guys. What do you think about this and Will Smith stuff? Do you think like a 3-year suspension would be too little? Do you think maybe it should be more? Do you think it shouldn't be anything at all? What did you think about his apology? I thought it was quite a good apology that he issued online. Whatever you guys are thinking about it, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.